here. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Den of Horror. I'm glad you're here. Now, I'm going to warn you in advance, today's episode is going to be a little bit different from my usual horror movie review and discussing the world of horror in general. Now, whenever somebody you know passes away, it's of course very sad and tragic. But what about someone that you don't really know, someone that you don't know personally? I've always had this mild interest in why I feel moved when a particular famous person passes away. What about you guys? Do you guys feel the same thing? For me, the most obvious explanation is that you form a connection with somebody famous through their work, be it their movies or music or art or sporting achievements, whatever. But you resonate with their work, and through resonating with their work, you form a connection with that particular individual. Now, I am very familiar with the name Ray Liotta, as I'm sure most of you are, particularly if you are a film fan. I mean, I know the face, I know the laugh. I know the voice, and yeah, I know Goodfellas. I mean, Goodfellas is one of my favorite all-time movies, and yet, if you had asked me a few weeks ago who my favorite actor was, I probably would have named 20 other actors before even uttering the name Ray Liotta. And yet, I felt particularly moved when I heard on the 27th of May 2022 that Ray Liotta had passed away. And to be honest, I couldn't quite figure out why. I couldn't quite figure out why his passing had upset me in a particular kind of way. And after thinking about it for a few days, I realized it was because Ray Liotta had an effect on me that wasn't very dissimilar to the effect that he had on a lot of the movies that he started. So for today's episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about Ray Liotta, why I personally really admired him as an actor, and also why I think that Ray Liotta was a much more special actor than a lot of us give him credit for. Now, despite the larger-than-life characters that he played so well, despite all the big movies, all the many achievements and acting accolades that he received over the course of his career, Ray Liotta always felt underrated to me. Whether he was in a big prestigious Hollywood production or a small indie film, Ray Liotta was always at the center of the film's emotional core. And I think that the reason why his passing upset me was because Ray Liotta was an underdog in the world of film. And I think that we can all relate to that. He was the unsung hero. He unassumingly, almost unegotistically, elevated every film that he was in with his nuanced and very thoughtful performances. So today, in honoring the career and life of Ray Liotta, I'm going to share with you my favorite 3 Ray Liotta movies. Now, I say 3, but I actually mean 4, and that's not because I can't count, but it's because the top spot is divided into 2 films. The first is my official favorite Ray Liotta movie, a bona fide classic if you like. And the second, though, this is my secret, unofficial favorite Ray Liotta movie. It's a film that some of you horror fans out there might be more familiar with, and it's a film that as a teenager I must have watched more than 10 times. Back then my horror journey was still in its infancy, and this film, it kept me firmly on track. It's also a film that demonstrates just how good Ray Liotta was. It's a film that shouldn't have been as good as it was, but yet it was great because precisely of Ray Liotta's performance in it. So maybe you can guess which film this is. Now, without any further ado, let's jump straight into my 3 favorite Ray Liotta movies. Raymond Allen Liotta got his big acting break in the 1989 baseball movie Field of Dreams. Co-starring Kevin Costner, he played the soft-spoken Shoeless Joe Jackson. But he'd become a household name for playing guys that were, well, unhinged, very violent, yet charming. And I think you know exactly what kind of guys I'm talking about.
Know that the ride or die. I keep waiting by my seat. Know that the ride or die. I keep waiting by my seat.
Jumping into film number 3 on my list. It's a film with no maid guys, but one very bad guy, and I'm pretty sure that you can guess who is behind this particularly unhinged, disturbed character. 1992 psychological home invasion thriller Unlawful Entry sees the always good Kurt Russell and the ever beautiful Madeleine Stowe as a couple who befriend a police officer after their home is broken into. It's one of those classic 90s thrillers. Taut pace, great soundtrack, very good performances, and a couple of really good thrills. But it's Ray Liotta who doesn't so much as shine on the screen as burn it up, as his character, police officer Pete Davis, becomes increasingly infatuated with Stowe's character. Watching his bad cop Pete Davis slowly descend into obsession, fixation, and violence is a testament to just how damn good Liotta was at playing characters who are innocent on the outside but completely psycho on the end. His performance is never over the top, yet it easily could have been. But what makes it so effective is how likable Liotta makes Pete Davis in the beginning of the movie. In one particular sequence, this guy is snorting up cocaine and frolicking with a prostitute in his patrol car, and yet in the very next scene, he's visiting a classroom full of 9-year-old toddlers in full-on friendly good cop mode. I mean, good movie, disturbing performance. Now, my second favorite Ray Liotta movie is one that might surprise some of you because you probably want to place it in the number one spot, and I completely understand why. Goodfellas was the film that turned Ray Liotta into a bona fide star. His portrayal of real-life mobster Henry Hill was so good that Henry Hill himself approved. Goodfellas has become stuff of legend, but it's easy to forget how good Ray Liotta was in this film, and also how much pressure he must have experienced leading a film co-starring heavyweights such as Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Paul Sorvino. While all the accolades went to Pesci, De Niro, and Scorsese, and justifiably so, it was also Ray Liotta's contribution that was vital to Goodfellas' success. I mean, the way that he effortlessly dealt with Henry Hill's extreme range of emotional states, anger, grief, joy, regret, paranoia, and shame. For me, it's always been a small mystery as to why Ray Liotta wasn't even nominated for an Academy Award. They maybe should have gone over there and slapped someone 15 times. And one of my favorite scenes is one that features, with its many memorable scenes, Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies of all time. No jokes, I've seen this film probably more than 15 times, and one of my favorite scenes in this film is one that features none other than Ray Liotta. No, I'm not talking about that scene.
Funny how? I mean, what's funny about it?
Tommy, no, you got it all wrong.
Oh, Anthony. He's a big boy. He knows what he said. What'd you say?
You're right.
Funny how?
The scene I'm talking about is one where Henry Hill receives a distressing phone call from his girlfriend who has just been harassed by the next door neighbor. Henry Hill decides he is going to drive over and teach the macho neighbor a lesson, Goodfellas style. There's this moment where he's sitting in his car glaring into the rearview mirror at the neighbor, imagining what he's about to do. What I love about the scene is that his blue eyes turn cold and you can see the calculated but violent rage there. It's a great scene and remains one of my all-time favorite Liotta moments. Now, number one on the list, or at least my official favorite Ray Liotta movie, is actually a Sylvester Stallone film. This one was meant to highlight the Italian stallion's more dramatic, softer, and flabbier side. And it did. Copland deals with a kind-hearted sheriff, played by Sylvester Stallone, who lives and works in a gated community of retired cops. However, he eventually finds himself in the middle of a corrupt police conspiracy. The film gave us an introspective Stallone, a very resourceful and well-played De Niro, a dangerous Harvey Keitel, and let's not forget a wonderfully desperate Michael Rappaport. Now, still to this day, Copland is regarded as an underrated film, and a lot of the attention that it garnered at the time was, basically on Sylvester Stallone's ample waistline, which is a pity, because it's a really good movie, a good story, well performed, like I mentioned, and it has a lot of heart. Much like in Goodfellas, Ray Liotta is part of this film's main cast, and much like in Goodfellas, he is the film's pounding heart behind all of those A-listers. However, here he trades in his charming bad guy for a paranoid, sensitive cop with a guilty conscience. He gives his character, Gary Figgs, a straight-up powerful intensity that is so perfectly summed up in a scene opposite Sylvester Stallone, where he also happens to give us some life-sobering advice.
But how does this apply to what you were saying?
It applies, Freddy! It's just as easy to tail a man walking in front of him. Now you butt heads with these friends of ours, you're gonna come at them head on?
Okay.
They got lives, Freddy. Families. No. You move diagonal. You jag.
In Copland, Ray Liotta had ample opportunity to go big and try and steal the limelight from all those A-listers around him, but instead, like so many times before, his performance is a slow burn. Not a raging fire, but a single flame, focused, contained, smoldering.
Know that the ride or die. I keep waiting on my seat.
Now, as promised, my unofficial favorite Ray Liotta movie. Despite the tough guy persona, Ray Liotta wasn't really known as an action man. Yeah, sure, his films were often very violent, but they were also classy. You know, the kinds of films that won awards, the kinds of films that you could watch with your mom and dad. Well, mostly, but fan of horror. Ray Liotta did star in a nasty, dystopian sci-fi action thriller. It was a film that would not only exemplify just how good and versatile he was as an actor, but it was also a film that would make any true B-grade sci-fi horror movie buff proud. In 1994, 1 year after Unlawful Entry, 4 years after Goodfellas, Ray Liotta did a movie that left me wondering why the actor never went the Nicolas Cage route and did a few more action adventures, because this film certainly proves that Ray Liotta could actually have been a bona fide action star. Now, when it was released in the United States, well, it was called No Escape, which is a little bit, for me, a little bit generic. But when I watched it in South Africa as a teenager in a dark cinema after reading about it in Fangoria magazine, the film was called
No Escape from Absalom.
Pretty cool title, if you ask me. Now, with some of the interviews that I saw Ray Liotta give while promoting this movie, he never seemed really enthusiastic about it. Now, I can kind of understand that, but I'm certainly glad that he made it, and it's a movie that I am still very enthusiastic about. In this film, based on a Richard Hurley novel called The Penal Colony, Liotta is sent to a prison island to serve a lifetime sentence. There he needs to fight and survive against a whole host of cannibalistic savage inhabitants. Think The Shawshank Redemption, only with a lot more bushes, tropical weather, lots of dirt, characters with few teeth and dented skulls, carrying a whole range of makeshift DIY weaponry such as barbed wire baseball bats. Interestingly, this film was set in 2022. Now there is a strange kind of irony, at least for me, and I hope I'm not stretching here, but I kind of got this. 2022 being the year that Ray Liotta passed away is the same year that his character in this film is sent to serve a life sentence. Now, wherever Ray Liotta is now, I hope that he has not been punished, but being rewarded. No Escape from Absalom is a true testament to Ray Liotta's conviction and commitment as an actor. Despite all of his class, his immense talent, and his very impressive resume, never do I get the sense that Ray Liotta is looking down on the material. Never does he seem out of place in this gritty film. And along with Lance Hendrickson, his co-star, Ray Liotta is the film's true highlight. Now, I haven't seen No Escape from Absalom in many years, and to be honest with you, I think I'm going to skip on revisiting this film. Why? Well, because I want to remember Ray Liotta in this through the filter of an excited teenager sitting in a dark cinema watching a bloody, uber cool action pic as those images flicker by and the true star of the film burns. Well, that's about it from me, folks. I really hope that you enjoyed watching this somewhat different episode, at least as much as I enjoyed putting it together. What was your favorite Ray Liotta movie, and what will you miss most about this legend? Anyway, if you enjoy horror-related content, please bite me with a subscribe, and if there's anything that you would like to share with me regarding horror, then drop it down in the comments down below, and I'll certainly try and make some time to get to it as soon as possible. Now, in the next episode, I'm going to be traveling all the way back in time to the year 1981 to investigate if this was the greatest year in horror. Let's find out. But to end off today's episode, I thought I would leave you with a special Ray Liotta moment from the movie Goodfellas. I picked out this particular moment just for you fans of horror because I think that you guys would appreciate it, seeing as though you have a particular taste in movies and in characters. So I hope that you guys enjoy this. Till next time, stay safe, stay happy, stay horror.